Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of the Hindu News Analysis. This is Shyam Kaggod taking up the discussion for the 11th September 2025. Before I start the discussion, please do let me know that I'm audible and visible for all of you. Please give the confirmation so that I can start the discussion. Done. Thanks a lot. So totally I've taken 10 articles from the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper. In addition to this, I've also taken one more article from the business line. This has been done in order to ensure that the discussion will be comprehensive and will be covering all the articles, be it from the polity, economy, international relations, or even for that matter, science and technology. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I start the discussion, the first very important announcement. Those of you who are preparing for the Civil Services 26 and 27, the courses we are offering is at the lowest price 17,999. Once you enroll into our courses, you'll get access to the recorded as well as the live sessions, be it from Hindi, English, or bilingual medium. You'll get access to our mentorship services, the reading material, the prelims, as well as mains test series. Those who are interested, do check out the details. And I've been told that today is the last day for this particular offer. And while enrolling, if you use the code IAS English, you will also get an extension of up to 12 months free of cost. Those interested, check out the details. Second, very important announcement. Again and again, I keep on getting this particular comment in the video as well as the mails. Sir, where can I get the PPT or the PDF of whatever you're discussing? Please check the description of this particular video. There will be a link with this particular title. Click on the link. You will be taken to this particular page. And in this page, go to the tab Newspaper PPT. All the days whenever I've taken the news analysis, date wise, I've uploaded the PPT. The link will be there. Click on the link. You'll be taken to a drive. Download from the drive. Now, with this announcement, let me start the discussion. The first important article, to build roads is to build peace. Now, what is basically the discussion here? Listen to me very carefully. This article, right, is associated with road infrastructure, GS paper 3, social issues, which you can use even in the writing of the essay paper. Now, what are the important points discussed by the writer here? There is a need to develop infrastructure in India. This is a fact, by the way. I'm not asking you any kind of question. There is a need to develop infrastructure, be it in the form of social infrastructure, be it in the form of physical infrastructure. And before I go forward, let me ask you a very simple question. How do you define infrastructure, by the way? Let's say you're sitting in the interview and the chairperson of the board will ask you, please define the term infrastructure. How will you define it? Because I know for a fact a lot of you will give the examples of infrastructure. You'll basically say, sir, infrastructure means road, infrastructure means hospital, infrastructure means airports, ports, etc. But listen to me very carefully. What is basically the term infrastructure mean? Infrastructure is the asset that we have created to achieve certain objective, which will help us in achieving certain objective. For example, traditionally we divide the infrastructure into social and physical. But in recent times, there is one more terminology which can be asked in the mains examination, that is the public infrastructure, that is basically the DPI, digital infrastructures. For example, Aadhaar is a digital infrastructure. UPI is a digital infrastructure. AgriStack is a digital infrastructure. So, whenever you talk about infrastructure, it can be digital, it can be, right, let's say the physical, which is basically the economic infrastructure I'm talking about here. When I say physical, I know a lot of you will say, sir, even social is a physical. Yes, agreed. But here I'm specifically talking about economic infrastructure such as highways, such as airports, ports, etc. So, be it for that matter economic infrastructure or for that matter social infrastructure, these are the assets which are created to achieve certain objective. It could be growth, it could be development. Now, in this particular context, the writer simply says there is a need to develop this infrastructure, especially in rural parts of India. Rural, or else the term they use is hinterland. Rural parts or hinterland. And specifically to the to prove the point in terms of rural or hinterland, the writer uses the term red corridor. Red corridor essentially refers to those particular states where Naxalism is very much prevalent. Where Naxalism is very much prevalent in India. We generally refer to these particular states, right? Basically, refer to them as red corridor states. Now, what is the reason why Naxalism is so rampant, so much present? Again, when I say so much present compared to earlier situation today, the presence of Naxalism is very, very less. I hope you understand that as well because of the government of India's actions or the measures in the recent time, along with the state government reforms as well, the presence of Naxals in these particular states is comparatively lesser. But, anyways, why is there an emergence in the first place? What is the logic behind it? The writer simply says, and this is true by the way, whenever the government, that is the state, is not present in the region, especially in these particular tribal regions, rural parts, etc., where the state presence is not there. What do you mean by state present? The state, whenever you talk about in this context, is simply referring to the government. I'm simply referring to the government here. And when I say the state present, the state has to be present in terms of providing services to the common man, to the Aam Admi. What kind of services are we talking about? The services provided by the state should be education. The state should provide services such as employment opportunities. There should be services related to healthcare. There should be services related to transportation, etc. Everybody is able to understand the discussion? So, the state, that is basically the government, be it center or for that matter, state, that should be providing the services in this particular form. When the government wants to provide the other services such as education, employment, healthcare, etc., you need to first ensure that there is road connectivity. Is it okay? You need to ensure that first there is a road connectivity established. Once you construct the road, then you can get access to these regions. You can develop school infrastructure there, take equipments and develop, right, let's say healthcare infrastructure, construct the other types of, right, let's say social infrastructure, so that there is a growth. As a result of this, there is a growth as well as a development observed in these particular regions. It will basically lead to inclusive growth. It's not just that only the cities are experiencing high growth rate, higher employment, better access to education, better access to healthcare, etc. Even the other parts of India, villages, those particular regions where tribal presence is very high, even those regions, because the government is providing these kind of services, they will also get the access. And by the way, don't you think it is also the duty of the government to provide these services? Of course, yes. Ultimately, the objective should be to achieve growth along with the development. But at the same point of time, it becomes the duty of the government to also ensure all these services are provided. But if the government wants to provide these kind of services, first we need to have better road connectivity. We need to have better road connectivity. For example, there have been multiple reforms, multiple projects which have been implemented by the government to provide all weather road connectivity in the hinterlands in India, in the borderlands in India. Right? For example, there is Bharatmala Pariyojana, which focuses on border regions or the coastal regions. There is a Gram Sadak Yojana, Pradhana Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which focuses on the villages where all weather roads are developed. But when the state is not present, when the road connectivity is simply built in order to have other kind of objectives, that is simply as a mode of a transportation connecting two bigger cities, and this particular road connectivity is not utilized by the state to provide other services, or the road connectivity in the first place is not there in the villages or these particular hinterlands, then what will be the result of that? The result of that will be Naxalism. That is, the other elements in the society will try to take the leverage of it, will try to take the benefit of it. For example, you must have seen this occurring multiple times, not only in the real life but also in movies, etc., where certain population which is neglected by the state will be manipulated. The antisocial elements will basically try to fill their mind with different ideas or different objectives. They'll basically create a situation, try to change their mind and say that the government is least bothered about you. The government is working only for the rich people. That's the reason there is no healthcare facility in your village. That's the reason there is no education facility in your village. That's the reason there is no power connectivity in your village, etc., etc. So the reason why Naxalbari or Naxalism essentially has grown in these particular regions is right basically because of this. So that's the reason the article simply says the first objective of the government to promote peace in these particular regions should be to develop infrastructure, to develop road connectivity, following that, provide all the other types of services as well, so that the population in this region will enjoy the benefits of the growth as well as the development. Otherwise, what could happen? One, Naxalism will become rampant, will start growing again, and let's say these particular antisocial elements, or let's say Naxals, will have their own parallel government, will run their own parallel government. And have a look at this. There have been certain instances where these parallel governments have dispensed justice, have worked like judiciary, have dispensed justice, they have provided health care, right, etc. But what is the problem with this kind of a, let's say, parallel government? The problem is in, let's say, in the state, that is in, let's say, the normal situation, the government is there. There are different political parties. There is a people to hold the government accountable. There is a judiciary to hold the government accountable. There is a rule of law. There is always a rule of law. For example, if the government of India wants to implement, let's say, a policy, they want to bring in a bill, they want to make a policy. First, they will introduce the bill. And even before that, this particular document will be put in the public domain. They will seek the inputs of different experts. What is the viewpoint of the public, etc. So there is always a rule of law which is holding the government accountable, which is holding the administration accountable, and there is also judiciary. But let's imagine in a particular region where Naxalism is there. Naxals will run the parallel government. They will have their own government. They will have their own process of administration. They will provide healthcare, no doubt. They will provide education to you. They will provide safety and security to you, etc. But all of this is not provided free of cost. They want you to rebel against the current administration. They want you to take up arms. They do not. They are not looking at your welfare. They want you to become a part of the Naxal movement. And not just this, don't you think if the Naxals will run a parallel administration, a parallel government, they will also impose heavy taxes, collect a lot of taxes from the people to provide security to them. And the kind of justice they will dispense, what is the guarantee that they will follow all the principles of the right justice? There can be a sudden retribution. For example, in multiple instances, you must have seen the Naxals will attack one particular household, will shoot one particular person. Why? They believe that the person was an informant. The person was essentially providing the information to, let's say, the government. So these kind of outcomes will be observed if the state doesn't provide the infrastructure in the form of roads, and then followed by the roads other forms of infrastructure which will help in the growth and development of the people residing in this particular region. And that's the reason the writer simply says infrastructure is not just functional. In these regions, infrastructure is not just a functional output. That is, it will not just be used. No, it is also a political statement. It is also to say to the people that do not worry, the government is there. The government will be present. The government is working in your favor. And the government will take your interest into consideration, will provide the benefits of the growth, will promote social welfare to the people. Do not worry about being left out of the system. That is essentially the argument which has been provided in this article associated with development of infrastructure in the hinterlands. Now, please take up this particular descriptive question, right? This is a descriptive question number 87. Infrastructure in rural and tribal heartlands is not merely functional but also political. Elaborate this particular statement. Right, so whatever we have discussed so far, you can basically put all of this in a concise manner, in an effective manner, in 250 words. Done? Okay, so next article, what is the way forward for the dispute of Katchtheevu Island? On Sunday, if you remember, if you have not yet seen that, please watch the video. Sunday analysis, which started at 10 o'clock, by the way, because somebody is asking, sir, when did the class start? Nobody told me, etc. My dear, every day without fail, the news analysis session starts at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. That's a time. So let me start the discussion here. Point number one, if you have not yet seen, please watch the Sunday news analysis. The first 10 to 15 minutes, I've discussed what is the issue of Katchtheevu Island, why there is a dispute between India and Sri Lanka, etc. Now, there is one article which has been written by Nirmala Chandrahasan, who is basically the attorney at law in the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, not India, Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. This person has given certain recommendations as to how can you resolve this particular dispute. Now, what are the important points discussed in the article? Let's have a look at it. She tries to basically make a distinction between two important issues here. One, who will basically have control over Katchtheevu. Right, have a look at this. Who will have a control over Katchtheevu? That is the administration of this particular island. Control over the island is one topic, is one area of discussion. And the second one is the fishing activity. Is everybody able to understand? Listen to me carefully. What the article discusses is two different concepts. Why there is a need to make a distinction here? The writer simply says a lot of times the discussion of fishing is connected to Katchtheevu Island control, which is, according to the writer, not correct, which is incorrect. Why? Katchtheevu Island is under the control of Sri Lankan government. And to prove that, there is basically the mention of the maritime agreement which was signed between India and Sri Lanka back in the year 1974. Is it okay? I'll repeat this again. Both of these are distinct topics. The writer simply says don't merge both of them. Don't, right, basically muddle the discussion by merging both of these particular topics. No, Katchtheevu Island is controlled by Sri Lanka, under the control of Sri Lanka. That's it. There should not be any discussion associated with who controls, under whose sovereignty the Katchtheevu Island will come. And that is basically proven by the fact that when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister, there was an agreement signed between India and Sri Lanka, that is maritime agreement 1974. According to that, Katchtheevu Island has been given to, right, basically Sri Lanka. And this is point number one. And now, if you basically, the political dispensation, because there is the Tamil Nadu elections, Katchtheevu Island will again come into discussion. Many of these political parties in India keep on talking about reclaiming Katchtheevu, basically taking over Katchtheevu. The argument of the writer here is it will be violation of the international law. It will lead to violation of international law because you have agreed according to the international law. Now it is under the control of Sri Lanka. If you simply say let's take over Katchtheevu island, it belongs to India, then it will become violation. There are no examples in the past which will support India's case. This is the first topic or first concept which is being discussed. Now come to the second one, that is fishers. What is the solution to this? Indian fishers want to get access to these territorial waters surrounding Katchtheevu because they want to conduct fishing activity. But at the same point of time, it is a matter of security for Sri Lanka. Even Sri Lankan fishermen want to conduct fishing activity there. But according to the international law, Indian fishermen are crossing over the territory, entering into the territorial waters of Sri Lanka, against which the Sri Lankan forces will take action. They will arrest fishermen. It will become a point of friction between government of India as well as the Sri Lanka, etc. So what is the solution to this then? What is the solution? The solution the writer simply says is, have a look at the statement. Right, please look at the statement or the question first here. Then I'll tell you what should be the return, what should be in the form of an answer for this kind of a question. Look at the question here. In the context of India Sri Lanka fisheries issue or fishing issue, there is a need to adopt a human approach. There is a need to adopt a human approach, one that balances livelihoods with conservation along with addressing historic grievances in the spirit of cooperation. If this kind of question is asked, what will be your recommendation? You can quote the recommendations provided in the article here. What are the recommendations? First one, there is a need to acknowledge the fact that the population of fishes in the Indian territorial waters has a dipped. Because of what? Because of overfishing. Because of the practice of the deep trawling fishing, etc. So, because of these kind of practices in India, right, or within the territorial waters of India, there is no doubt we have to accept the fact that the fishing population has dropped. And when right the fishing population has dropped, obviously Indian fishers or Indian fishermen will go into the Sri Lankan territorial waters and start fishing because the population of fishes is higher there. But what the writer simply says is, let's establish something here. Why the fishing population or why the fish population in the Indian territorial waters has a decline? It is because of the commercial bottom trawling operations. Right, the commercial bottom trawling operations. So because of these kind of commercial bottom trawling operations, the fishing population has declined. So let's do one thing. Let's basically distinguish between who are the artisanal fishers and bottom trawler operators. Let's distinguish between both of them. Why? The second group is operating for commercial purposes, and they are the reason why the fish population in Indian territorial water has a decline. So why should we allow them to enter into the Sri Lankan waters and reduce the fishing population there as well? That basically right will again have the same impact there as well. So let's distinguish between both of them, and let's provide certain right, let's say, benefit to only artisanal fishers. Artisanal fishers are essentially those fishers who basically follow sustainable fishing activity, right? Those who are basically traditional fishermen who focus on sustainable fishing, not like commercial bottom trawlers. So need to make a distinction between both of them. And second, can we have a system where quotas can be established? And there are examples, by the way. In the Baltic Sea, this has been followed earlier. In the Baltic Sea, right, it has been followed earlier, by the way, right, by different countries, where multiple countries came together. They entered into an agreement where they focused on sustainable fishing activity, where quotas were given. Quotas means limits, where quotas were decided for individual, right, let's say countries like this. So can there be, again, I hope you understand, on paper, these kind of agreements look very nice. Or between India and Sri Lanka, the proposal looks very nice. But for this, there is a requirement of a huge political will as well. Because if these kind of agreements will have to be entered, let's say hypothetically, India and Sri Lanka, the fishermen will agree on, right, let's say 1 or 2 days, Indian fishers will be allowed to enter into these, right, let's say areas surrounding Katchtheevu and conduct fishing activity. And on the remaining days, the right will be given to the Sri Lankan fishermen. So I hope you understand this is very, very complicated. It's not as easy as it looks on the paper. But can there be a solution discussed? This is a solution they are discussing. Okay. So can we have quotas? Can we have regulated access and set out limited fishing rights on specific days or seasons for Tamil Nadu's artisanal fishers, that is small fishers, until the stocks in the Indian territorial water will be regenerated? This is one recommendation that has been provided. Like I said, you can quote examples from the Baltic Sea. But for this to happen, first there is a need for community sensitization, right? But for this to happen, there is right basically need for community sensitization. What do you mean by community sensitization? When there was a conflict going on in Sri Lanka, lot of these right people, lot of these Tamilians who were earlier residents of Sri Lanka migrated to India. So India specifically where? To the state of Tamil Nadu. Right. So we have been receptive. We have been understanding in terms of what has happened in Sri Lanka, right, in the last 2 decades. We need to sensitize the population associated with. In the same way, we also need to sensitize the population in the Sri Lankan side as well to make them understand, yes, right, the people from Sri Lanka only have gone. Certain population has migrated, right, into the state of, let's say, Tamil Nadu because of the civil war that has happened. So they are also right. They will also become more receptive to the plight of the fishermen in Tamil Nadu. But more importantly, there is a requirement of sensitizing the political class. There is right a requirement of sensitizing the political class. Why? Even if you make the population understand, the people from both the sides understand, suddenly because of the right, let's say certain statements given by the political let's say parties or the representatives, the whole situation, the whole condition can become again destabilized, right? So there is need for community sensitization. And right basically, can we promote cooperation in semi enclosed areas, that is in this particular region surrounding the Park State as well as the Katchtheevu? Can there be certain scientific studies conducted by both representatives from India and Sri Lanka? What kind of, right, let's say the studies that I'm talking about? Can we establish a lab which will study what are the regions where fishing can be sustainably conducted? What are the regions where fishing should be stopped currently? What kind of right, let's say measures, or let's say the reforms which should be implemented in order to promote this kind of promotion of the population of the fishes, etc. So can we have a cooperative study between both of these particular countries? These are the recommendations which have been provided in the article in order to address this particular issue of the fishing between Indian as well as Sri Lankan fishermen. Done? Okay, so this is basically the set of recommendations. You can use it to provide a way forward whenever these kind of questions are asked in the mains examination. Can we go forward to the next article now? Please do let me know. Everybody is okay? Can we go forward to the next article? Next article is Trump Modi signal trade negotiations may resume. In the article, as such, no relevant information for your exams. Listen to me very carefully. In the article, as such, there is no relevant information for your exam. What does the article simply say? That there is now a renewed hope of conducting trade negotiations between India and USA. There was a tweet put forward by the head of the USA administration, or truth post put out by USA President Mr. Donald Trump, who said basically India and USA will continue to negotiate. He looks forward to talk to his best friend Mr. Modi, etc., etc. And immediately after a couple of hours, the Prime Minister of India also tweeted saying that he welcomes this particular move and says we will be able to meet a fruitful outcome. But what is the importance of this article? What is the importance? Why there is this kind of a pivot which is being followed by USA now? Please understand that. Please understand before you get enraged. I know a lot of you will do that. Before you get enraged and simply say India should not do any kind of negotiation now, we should move away from the table. We should hold trade only with Russia as well as China. These are our best friends now. We are the three murtis, etc. Before you come to that particular conclusion, listen to the argument first. Please listen to the argument. In USA, there is a bill which has been introduced in the Congress by the name of Hire Act. How many of you have heard of this? Do let me know in the chat section. In the USA Congress now, there is a bill which has been introduced by the name of Hire Act. Hire basically stands for Halting International Relocation of Employment. Important for you. Listen to me carefully. Halting international relocation for employment. It's a bill which has been introduced as of now. Once it is passed by the Congress, it will be sent to the President, and the President, once he signs, will become an act. What is the importance of this? There are two angles to look at why this phone call or this outcome or the update is so important. Two sides. What is happening in USA? Why USA is changing the stance? And should India reciprocate? Should India also basically say, yes, let's negotiate, let's have a trade agreement? Listen to me very carefully. In case of India, we should reciprocate this. I am saying we should hold negotiations, and as such, even today or till now, India's stance has been we are always open to talks, trade negotiations with USA. Even when the USA administrators or the president kept on giving multiple statements, at every point of time, we have said we are open to talks for trade, for better cooperation and relation with USA. And I'm saying we should not change the stance. We should continue negotiating and get an agreement. One reason for this is the higher bill. What does the higher bill basically say? Listen to me carefully. This bill will target the service exports that USA companies will do. I'll repeat the statement. This particular bill will target the service exports that the USA companies will do. Not just to India, but for any country for that matter. In case of the USA companies, a lot of their services, that is, for example, software, they get it exported. They basically get it imported from India. And from the context of India, this is important. Why? More than 60% of our total service revenue, we generally get it from USA. Now, what is the impact of this particular proposal given in the higher bill? It targets these kind of exports and imposes a 25% duty on that. Is my statement clear to all of you? It will target these kind of imports of services into USA, and they will impose a 25% tariff on this. That is essentially, imagine an American company will outsource software services to India, and in return will pay, let's say, $100, hypothetically. $100. The bill simply says the government of USA should target this company, impose a 25% tax on this particular company. Which means the American company will not just pay $100. They will pay 100 plus 25, $125. Which I hope you understand by now. You should understand by the number that the American companies would be affected. Rather than exporting these particular services to, let's say, Indian companies, they might look at hiring in the domestic market itself. So will it have an impact on the services exports are done to India? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. And not just this, right? There are other important defense arrangements also. There are, right, let's say, space agreements as well. There is a mineral security partnership as well. I'll come to this in a minute. So argument is we have been, right, basically taking a stance that we are always open to negotiations. But I'm saying even now we should continue negotiating. Second, look at from the USA's angle. USA also desperately needs this kind of a outcome. Why? The job growth in USA has taken a hit. I don't know how many of you have been reading the updates of USA. The job growth for the last month in USA, they were able to generate 22,000 jobs. 22,000 jobs in a month. In a country where they usually generate jobs to the extent of 1.5 lakh, 1.7 lakh, 1.8 lakh jobs. So the number of jobs generated in USA have taken a hit. Inflation is going upwards because of the tariff. The household's consumption has been hurt because of the tariff. And not to forget, the unemployment rate has become the highest in the last 4 years. The unemployment rate has crossed more than 4%, the highest in the last 4 years. So, from the USA side also, there is certain concern for them, right? There is a right very big concern for them. So that would be the reason why the USA is taking a pivot like this. It is having a diversion and simply saying we want to negotiate with India. So everybody is able to understand. So these are the reasons why, right? These are the reasons why this article in today's newspaper, where the leaders of both of these particular countries have indicated that the negotiations of the trade of the other tariffs, etc., will start again. Right? So this is the reason why the article is so important. Now, please have a look at the question here, MCQ. Those who are sleeping, wake up now, solve the MCQ. Consider the following statements regarding Mineral Security Partnership. This was launched in 2022. First statement. Altmin has become the first project from India to be listed under MSP. MSP is a Mineral Security Partnership, by the way. Okay? Not minimum support price. Mineral Security Partnership. And the third one is India is the founding member of MSP. How many of the above statements are true? Do let me know answer. Do let me know the answer, by the way, very quickly. Lot of you will feel the first statement is easy, third statement is easy. Lot of you will get stuck up with the second statement. Lot of you, I know. Right? Why? Sir, second statement, nowhere it is there. It was not mentioned in the Hindu newspaper, you'll simply say. I will assist you. This is the article from Business Line. This is the article from Business Line. Last week it was there. Altmin, the company from India, becomes the first India's project to be listed under Mineral Security Partnership. Please update this. This is the first project from India to be listed under the Mineral Security Partnership. MSP is basically a group of 14 countries or group of 14 members. India did not join this initially. MSP was launched back in 2022. And again, I'm saying MSP here is Mineral Security Partnership. Right? This was launched in 2022. Yes. Altmin has become the first project from India to be listed under this particular MSP. Yes. Right. And the third one, India is the founding member of EMSP. No, this statement is incorrect. The third statement is incorrect. Only the first and second. Founding member means when the organization was launched, was India a member country? India was not a member country in the beginning. Later on, right, it became a member country of EMSP. Right. So, first statement is true. Second statement is true. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two of the above statements are true. Now, please go through this particular article. Information regarding MSP has been provided. Right. Along with India, what are the other member countries? When it was launched? What is the objective of MSP? Why this becomes so pivotal, so important for India in the context of what is happening in the international trade in terms of critical minerals, China imposing bans, etc. You'll be able to understand. Done? Everybody is okay? Can I move on to the next article now? Compensation for wrongful incarceration. Compensation for wrongful incarceration. Let me ask you a very simple question. If I ask you, if I put you in a jail for, let's say, 5 years for no fault of yours, in return for your freedom, how much money would you accept? Think of it. Will there be anybody who will accept money in return to be incarcerated, right? Let's say for 10 years, for 12 years, for 8 years, for no fault of yours, right? So argument is, in case of India, the problem is lot of people are incarcerated, and lot of people are incarcerated. That is basically put behind the bars. They have been incarcerated for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. And later it has been found by the judiciary that they were wrongfully put behind the bars. Wrongfully put. Either there is, right, absolutely no proof to prove that they have committed the crime. Or, right, later it was realized that the crime was committed by somebody, but the punishment has been meted out to somebody else. So multiple people have been put behind the bars and they are released later after multiple years. But the problem in case of India is, one, they have been wrongfully put behind the bars. That is a bigger, right, issue. But in addition to that, once they are released, they will face a lot of societal pressure. For example, let's say somebody has been wrongfully incarcerated, put behind the bar, and the allegation was he was a rapist. Oh, can you imagine? Right? It was a wrong decision of the police. There was no proof, etc. But they have been put behind the bars. Now it was realized that this is not the criminal, somebody else is the criminal. Now you have released this particular person into the society. Do you think this particular person will easily be able to find a job? This person will be able to get assimilated into the society again? What kind of, right, let's say the explanation that the person has to provide to the relatives in the family, etc. So the argument is very simple here. There have been multiple instances in the past where people have been put behind the bars for multiple years, but the problem in case of India is, once they are released, there are other issues. But in addition to that, there is absolutely no compensation paid for them for, right, wrongly targeting them, wrongly putting them behind the bars. And what do you mean by the compensation here? What do you mean by the amount that I'm talking here? If you look at other countries, for example, in case of Germany, if you look at the example of Germany, for every day that you're wrongfully incarcerated, you can claim a payment of 75 euros. You'll be paid a compensation of 75 euros every day if you're wrongfully incarcerated. And beyond this also, if you have lost pension because of that, if you have lost other material things, you can claim compensation. But there is a law. There is a compensation paid for wrongful incarceration. Or for that matter, you look at, let's say, USA, United States of America. In USA, there are two systems. One is a federal prison and the other one is a state prison. Unlike, let's say, other countries, there is a federal prison as well as state prison. In USA, there is a codification of this. There is a law which has been passed, Innocence, Innocence Protection Act. And, right, basically under this, which is a federal law, by the way, if you're wrongfully incarcerated, then per annum you'll be paid $50,000. For wrongful incarceration, you'll be paid a compensation of $50,000. And if you are on a death row, and that is basically you're on a death row, in that case the compensation will be doubled to $1 lakh or $100,000 per annum. And again, this is a federal law. At the state level, there are again different laws. The argument that has been put forward in this article is very simple. Multiple number of people in India are wrongfully incarcerated for multiple years. But right now, there is absolutely no law in India to provide compensation when we realize that they have been wrongfully incarcerated. The point clear? There is absolutely no law. In fact, there have been multiple petitions, right, in the judiciary. There is one case where, right, basically this was taken up by the court, and the court said we can't legislate, we can't make a law. What relief you are seeking from us is basically making a law. That legislation is not the duty of the judiciary, rather, it is the duty of the legislature. So please put forward this particular request, right, to the legislative. But as of now, Government of India has not introduced, right, that nothing has been introduced by Government of India, or for that matter, any of the state governments in the form of law, where compensation shall be provided if you're wrongfully incarcerated. But this is required. This is actually required in the context of India. Done. So this is one article associated with, right, let's say judiciary, or right, let's say the polity subject. Let me go to the next article. Airports face user fee cuts for poor passenger services. Listen to me carefully. Whenever you purchase a airline ticket, whenever you purchase an airline ticket, I know a lot of you do not check what is the breakup of the price. Am I correct in this? Please do let me know. You do not check what is the breakup, right? If you're paying, let's say, 5,000 rupees, how did you arrive at 5,000 rupees? A lot of you will not check. Forget about airline ticket. If you purchase, let's say, a movie ticket itself, you will not check, right? What is the breakup? How much is the tax? How much is the GST, etc., etc., right? I know a lot of people do not check it. But if you look at the price that you pay for an airline ticket, there will be one component in that. There will be one component that is basically the airport development fees, ADF, airport development fees. I'll write it, right? Airport development fees. The only reason I'm writing is I know some of you are film fans, right? Your movie fans. You will look at basically ADF and say, right, sir, ADF is Ajay Devgan Films. I watched his latest movie, etc. It's not Ajay Devgan Films. It is airport development fees. Different airports will have different airport development fees. Why? They will impose this particular fees because when you enter into airport, there are different types of services which are provided to you by the airport authority. Different types of services. For example, it could be air cooling services. It could be, right, water, drinking water services. It could be mobility services. It could be maintenance operations, etc. So each of the airport will impose a charge and collect certain amount of money from you. And please understand, the amount that is collected will keep on varying from one airport to another airport. But the concern is the airport providing correct quality services when they're collecting charges from you? When they're imposing and collecting the charges, are they providing the right quality of the services? That is where now the regulatory authority, please remember the name of the regulatory authority, AERA. AERA, Airport Economic Regulatory Authority. AERA stands for Airport Economic Regulatory Authority. It is a statutory authority which has been set up by the Government of India, which has issued a set of framework. It has released a framework under which different parameters have been chosen. And based on these particular parameters, each of the airports in India, major airports, they will be evaluated. The performance standards of these particular, right, airports will be evaluated. And once they evaluate, if it is found that the airport is not providing the right quality services, it is not meeting the standards, then the AERA will impose a penalty on the airports. And the penalty will be basically reducing the charges, reducing the development fees they are collecting from the consumers. So this regulatory authority now has issued, for the first time in India, has issued a set of standards, a set of performance framework. If the airports are not able to meet them, then the development fees or the charges that they collect from the customers who are flying or the flyers, the charges will have to be lowered. Right? So this has been done for the first time. So please be very, very careful. Now, associated with AERA, I've given an MCQ. Please solve it. Consider the following statements. The Airport Economic Regulatory Authority is a body set up through executive resolution and functions under Ministry of Civil Aviation. AERA decides the ticket prices charged by the private airliners in India. AERA is also regulatory authority on safety regulation in India. Let's start now. Or before that, what is the key answer? Anushka Singh says A. What about others? Devendra Kumai says A. Others, sir, you discuss. I'm simply here to listen to you. Right? I don't want to solve it. I want you to solve it. Because ultimately in the UPSC, I will write the exam. You will not write the exam. So what is the key answer? Airport Economic Regulatory Authority is the body set up through executive resolution and functions under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Functioning under the Civil Aviation Ministry is correct, but not set up through executive resolution. There was an act. AERA Act 2008. There was an act. For example, I told you it's a statutory authority. My dear, please tell me, those who are giving wrong answer, statutory authority means what? There should be a law. There should be an act of the parliament. Under the provision of the act, this authority will be set up. So it's a statutory authority. So first statement, incorrect. Second one, AERA decides the ticket prices charged by the private airliners in India. Have you ever seen private airliners having a fixed ticket price, let's say for 3 months, for 4 months, or for 5 months, etc.? No. AERA doesn't decide the ticket prices. It doesn't decide the ticket prices. The private airliners, basically have been given the power based on the market demand and supply to determine the ticket prices in it. That's the reason. Please apply this in the real time, you'll understand. From now on, we are entering into festival season, correct? We are entering into festivals. So once we move towards festivals, will the ticket prices keep on rising upwards or downwards, or will they remain stagnant? That means it is a market driven mechanism. It is not decided by AERA. AERA is also regulatory authority on safety regulation in India. No, my dear. Lot of you have made a mistake in this question, by the way. No, it's a DGCA. I hope you understand. DGCA. Right? Very recently, the Air India crash, DGCA was there in the newspaper, etc. So, AERA is also regulatory authority on the safety regulation. No, it is not associated with safety regulation. It is DGCA. All the three are incorrect. Right option for the question will be D, none of the above. Okay, let me go forward. Constitute Indo-Bhutan River Commission with West Bengal as a member. This is the demand which has been put forward by the West Bengal Chief Minister. And by the way, this is not the first time that this kind of a demand has been raised by the West Bengal government. What is the issue here? Issue is very simple. There are multiple rivers that will originate in different paths, within India as well as in Bhutan, which will flow into West Bengal and basically then go to the Bay of Bengal. Is everybody okay with the point number one? There are multiple rivers. For example, from Bhutan itself, there are multiple rivers that will enter into India, which will basically flow to West Bengal. Right? For example, what are the kinds of rivers? Please remember the names of the rivers. There is Manas River. There is Sankosh River. There is Torsa. There is also Raidak. So these are some of the most important rivers that will enter into the different paths, especially from the Bhutan will enter into India and then basically culminate in certain regions of West Bengal. And the concern here is when more than by the way, this is a statement given by the West Bengal Chief Minister. When more than 70 rivers and streams will basically culminate into one region in West Bengal, there will be overflowing, there will be flooding in the region. And the region which has been cited as an example for this particular flooding activity that will happen in West Bengal, it is Jalpaiguri, Jalpaiguri and Alipurdur. Okay, right. So argument of the Chief Minister here is multiple rivers will flow into let's say West Bengal. from Assam also, from right here as well. So these rivers will flow, and because this is a region where multiple rivers will join like this, there is too much of flooding, especially during monsoon season. Especially during monsoon season. So the right request, or let's say the demand, and this is not the first time, it has been done earlier as well, of the Chief Minister of West Bengal to the Government of India. Earlier it was demand during Niti Ayog meet as well, is to basically set up Indo-Bhutan River Commission. Indo-Bhutan River Commission. Right now, there is no such river commission between India and Bhutan. I repeat, right now, there is no water commission between Indo and Bhutan. But this is being demanded by the West Bengal Chief Minister. Very recently in the parliament also, the Ministry for Water Resources has clarified that the government of India has not considered any such proposal to set up a water commission between India and Bhutan. No such proposal is existing as of now. But then what is the system which is existing? Please remember, between India and Bhutan, there are two very important points here. In 1992, there was a joint expert committee set up. Joint expert committee set up. I'm sorry, not committee, team. Joint expert team, JET. And the joint expert team will basically look after the flood management. It will look after the flood management. This was done back in 1992. There is one more very important point. Again, in the year 2004, in the year 2004, there is a joint group of experts. Joint group of experts. Joint group of experts also has been set up, having members from both the sides, India as well as Bhutan, and this will basically look after what are the causes, what are the reasons, right, why flooding happens, right, what can be the solutions, or what is the effect of this kind of a flooding, what can be the solution, etc., etc. So the government of India basically says we already have this kind of a system with Bhutan. We have signed agreements, right, wherein we have a joint group of experts who is looking after, right, the causes, etc. We also have right, the joint expert team which is looking after the flood management. And what is the point of basically setting up a water commission? And there is no requirement, and that is the precise reason the government of India so far has not entertained this kind of a request from the Chief Minister of West Bengal. But nevertheless, please remember the factual information, such as the rivers that are flowing, or for that matter, right, these kind of committees which have been set up between India and Bhutan by them. Okay, let me go forward. Important article from the context of right, let's say social issues, or for that matter even art and culture, right. The government of India has launched Adi Samskriti Platform. Adi Samskriti Platform, right. What is the importance of this particular platform? Important factual information, but important, don't simply ignore it. Important questions can be asked in GS papers, that is in the mains, as well as GS paper of prelims. Adi Sanskriti is basically a portal, it's a platform. And the government of India simply says, and this has been launched by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So it will be the first digital university to preserve and promote the culture and the traditional knowledge of tribal communities. Tribal communities, the world's first, world's largest digital university. And it will also have an online marketplace. It will also have, one of the components is, it will have an online marketplace. That is, there are multiple products which are produced by the tribal communities. We need to ensure there is a market where these can be sold. Not only the population which is residing in the region, but other population from the rest of India as well. So what the government of India has done, that is Ministry of Tribal Affairs here specifically, there are three components of this particular portal. There are three components. And by the way, yesterday it was launched. I got to know that yesterday. I checked the website today morning. Right? I don't know, if you want, you can also check. When I checked, I'll tell you something very interesting happened. In the PIB, not PIB, there was a notification saying that the government has launched this portal. There was a link provided. There was a video also. I clicked on the link. There is absolutely nothing in the website as of now. It is not working, by the way. Anyways, that's a different aspect. UPSC will not ask you that. Don't worry. The three components of the Adi Sanskriti are: one, Adi Vishwavidyalaya; second one is Adi Sampada; and the third one is Adi Hath. Adi Hath is essentially a marketplace where the products which are produced by the tribal population will be marketed. These will be sold, etc. Adi Sampada is a social cultural repository. It has a collection of over 5,000 curated documents across different themes such as a dance, painting, etc. And the third one is Adi Vishwavidyalaya, right? That is a digital tribal art academy. It is offering around 45 courses which are on tribal dance, painting, crafts, music, etc. So please memorize these particular names. This is my advice to you. Please memorize these particular names. UPSC can ask you in the preliminary examination, for example, this way, or they can ask you in the mains answer writing as well. Now, please look at the question MCQ number 162, and please do let me know if anybody knows what is the right answer. How many of the following pairs are correctly matched? I know a lot of you will know the answer for first question or first pair. Adi Sanskriti. You'll be very happy. Finally, something that you have read has come in the question. But what are the remaining two? Right? Adi Prakashan. I'm sorry, Adi Prasikshan. And the second one is Adi Kalakar. Right? These are the different portals or the platforms which have been launched by the government. Right? And by the way, all the three are correct. Before you start searching in the Google, start checking whether these are correct or not. All the three are correct, by the way. Right? So first one is Adi Sanskriti. Just now we have discussed this. It is the world's largest digital university to preserve culture of tribal communities. Absolutely true. Adi Prasikshan, database of training programs which are conducted by Ministry of Tribal Affairs as well as the state governments. Adi Kalakar, central repository of artisans and artist audio video recordings of performances of tribal people. All the three are correct. Please make a note. Please make a note. Why? Because this is there in the news. Suddenly, these kind of other portals associated with the tribal population or promotion of tribal culture, tribal painting, tribal, right? Let's say training, etc., can be asked in the examination. So, all the three are correct. Right option for the question will be option C, all the three. Now, next one. India or the government of India is resisting full crypto framework. Full crypto framework. What is the discussion that is happening? Please listen very carefully. If you've observed, there are multiple countries around the world which have a framework which identify, recognize cryptocurrencies. Point number one is it clear to everyone? There are multiple countries around the world which have legally recognized cryptocurrencies and are promoting the exchanges, the trading of cryptocurrencies, utilization of the cryptocurrencies, etc. And there is on the other side countries, including right multiple countries, but mainly India. Government of India so far has not introduced any piece of legislation which will target only cryptocurrencies. Is my point clear to all of you? There is no law in India specifically targeting cryptocurrencies or virtual digital assets. Now, before somebody will point out and simply say, but sir, income tax provision is there, etc. My dear, I'm saying, is there a specific law? There is absolutely no specific law in India. So, argument is, why is the government of India not introducing a specific law? Reuters basically has published a paper. According to the Reuters, it has seen a document of government of India. It says government of India purposely is not introducing this law. The government of India doesn't want to introduce a law identifying, legalizing, or notifying the virtual digital assets or specifically cryptocurrencies in India. Why? Cryptocurrencies by nature, I'm pretty sure all of you heard of this, are decentralized currencies. Decentralized currencies means what? The central banker is not issuing the currency. These are mined. For example, right, the Bitcoin. How do you get a Bitcoin? Right, basically, you mine this particular Bitcoin. Today, you can get it in the market. But again, the concept of producing the Bitcoin is mining. But the argument is there is no central authority which is controlling the supply of the Bitcoins. These are decentralized currencies which have been produced using or which are basically using the blockchain technology. The government of India and RBI are of basically of this viewpoint. We do not want to introduce any law wherein we will recognize these kind of currency. Because if I recognize the currency, it means now the people or the population, Indians, investors, etc. in India will start purchasing these currencies, will start demanding for these particular currencies, will start trading of these currencies. Exchanges in India will be, right, let's say, increasing very fast, etc. That has a systemic risk. It has a very high systemic risk. What is the systemic risk here? The prices of these particular currencies is never stable and no guarantee whatsoever. Tomorrow itself, the Bitcoin can crash. Can crash. I'm not saying it will crash, can crash, which has happened in the past. Very high volatility. So people's money, right? The investment shall be lost or would be lost in a split second. So that is the reason, right? The article simply says the government of India as well as the Reserve Bank of India are against the concept of having any law to recognize the virtual currencies, right? That is again cryptocurrencies in the Indian market. Done? Okay. Next, one more article. Block everything. French protest. Gen Z is associated with Nepal. What if UPSC will ask you, block everything protest is associated with which country? Please remember, it is associated with Paris. Now, what is happening in the Paris? Right? What is the reason why all of this is happening? Please understand, very recently, there was a no confidence voting that was conducted in the French parliament or in the France parliament. The prime minister there basically called for no confidence right voting. More than 350 lawmakers basically voted against right the prime minister, the sitting prime minister or the prime minister there. As a result of this, the prime minister lost the confidence vote and had to resign. Now the president of France, Mr. Macron, has announced a new prime minister, Mr. Lecon, right? A new prime minister. Basically, he was the defense minister earlier. Now he has been elevated to take over prime minister function. But please understand what is actually happening. Why there is a resignation. And by the way, this is not the first resignation in the last 2 years. Or this is not the first time a prime minister has been changed in the last 2 years. In France, in the last 2 years, four prime ministers have been changed. Four of them have been changed. Right? So the argument is what is happening? Basically, all of this boils down to economic instability. Economic instability. There is a lot of economic instability in this particular country as of now. One of the reason why the previous prime minister lost the confidence of the parliament or let's say the lawmakers was one, listen to me carefully. The parliament in France is a hung parliament. Hung basically here base means no political party individually has the majority there. It's basically a coalition of the political parties, and that was because there was a snap election conducted last year in France. So there is a right. Let's say there is a situation where there's a coalition. No single party has the majority. Now, when the prime minister right looked at the situation, financial situation of the government there, the debt of the government of France is very very high. How much? According to one estimates, the debt of the government in France is 114 percentage of GDP. Imagine 114 percentage of GDP. We are always worried about government of India's debt. Government of India's debt is how much? Around 80% of GDP. Whereas in case of France, it is 114% of GDP. So the previous prime minister announced a package where lot of deductions would be included, where lot of cuts will be implemented, and which would hurt a lot of people who are participating in the economic activity. For example, there was a proposal to cut national holidays. There was a proposal to cut pension payments, welfare payments, etc. So when these kind of proposals are put forward by the prime minister in a coalition government, obviously there will be frictions, right? So as a result of this, there was a no confidence and the prime minister lost, resigned, and now there is an appointment of the new prime minister. And this is exactly what is happening in France. In addition to this, 18th September, there is a strike which has been called by the labor unions. And yesterday, there was also a protest, right, basically called as or named as Block Everything, to protest against the government policies here. And again, please understand the problem with these kind of protests is there is no leadership, right? There is no single leader who has come forward to basically say, we are the leaders of this particular protest. So, what has happened is during the block, everything protest, multiple services have been disrupted, and hundreds of people have been arrested by the French police. Right. So, these are certain important points associated with what is happening in France. Done. Okay. Last article for today, NFST scheme. Why is this important? Why is this relevant? Listen to me carefully. The government of India has implemented a central sector scheme. There was earlier scheme for promotion of, right, let's say SCs as well as STs getting access to, right, let's say degrees such as PhDs. This initiative basically targets provide financial incentives to the, right, let's say students who belong to SCs and STs, right, essentially getting access to PhDs. That is, you get enrolled into these kind of institutions. I will give you certain, right, let's say subsidy. I'll give you certain, right, money component, so that your study purposes you can use this particular assistance or financial assistance given by the government. That is basically the scholarships that are given in the schools and colleges. What the government of India did was, the one that is implemented for the SCs, the name was changed. The name is basically different now. And the one that is implemented for STs, the one that was implemented for STs, the name was changed. And for SCs, the same name continues. What is the name for the scheme? Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship. Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship. So there was a Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship scheme for SC candidates. There was also Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship for ST candidates. The government of India has changed the name for the scheme covering ST candidates, that is scheduled tribe students. Now this has been named as National Fellowship, right? Just a second. National Fellowship for Scheduled Tribe Students, or scheme. National Fellowship for Scheduled Tribe scheme, under which annually 750 candidates who are pursuing PhDs and other these kind of high level degrees will be identified, and financial assistance annually is provided. Annual financial assistance is provided by the government. Now, why all of this is being discussed in the article? Why all of this is there in the current affairs? Reason is very simple. The scheme which is being implemented, right, that is NFST by Tribal Affairs Ministry, the funds have ran out. The funds, right, have ran out. And when the funds have ran out, the allocation of the scholarship, the allocation of funds for these particular candidates for multiple months now have been stopped. As a result of the assistance being stopped, now these candidates who are, let's say, conducting research, are presenting papers, etc., have been forced to pay the money out of their own pocket. That is a concern which has been raised in the article here. Done? Right. So this is an update associated with the scheme. Let's solve the MCQ, the last MCQ for today, and that will be the end of the discussion. Consider the following statements. Two statements are there. You are supposed to find which of the two statements is correct. The National Fellowship for Scheduled Tribes and Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship covers graduation and post graduation studies of the ST candidates. This is incorrect. Why? Please listen to me carefully. It's a repetition. Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship is for scheduled caste aspirants, or let's say students, whereas the National Fellowship for Scheduled Tribes is for ST candidates. Right? So, first statement is incorrect. And moreover, it doesn't cover graduation, it covers higher degrees. Both of the schemes are implemented by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. The NFST is implemented by Ministry of Tribal Affairs, whereas right the Rajiv Gandhi National Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship Scheme is implemented by Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare. Right, so the second statement is also incorrect. Both of them are incorrect. Right option for this particular question will be right none. Options are different. Don't worry. Right option is both of the statements are incorrect. Done. So these are the 10 different articles plus 11 from the business line. So 11 different articles which are there in Hindu newspaper, mainly from the Delhi edition. If you're liking this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And before I close the session, if you have any kinds of doubts, please do let me know. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Is having only a compensation enough to make a victim back to his social position? The idea is not to basically put the person back into the earlier position in the society. It can provide a certain assistance. For example, if it can provide certain assistance where they can earn their livelihood, they can provide, let's say, good education for the children, etc. That is the argument there. Okay. Satyaprakash, legal entity identifier in banking sector, my dear. What context are you talking about? Please do let me know. Aman Barnawal, explain input tax credit. Whatever taxes you pay on the inputs, that will be credited back to you. That is called as input tax credit. Okay. Uh, Raja Parthiban, sir, in this context, can we compare key differences? Yes, that can be asked. That can be asked. Okay. What makes cryptocurrency so expensive? Supply and demand. Very simple, supply and demand. Because cryptocurrencies prices are not regulated by anybody. It is based on supply and demand. Okay. Done then. So that's it from my side. Please take care. See you next time whenever the Hindu news analysis is taken by me. Have a great day. Right. Take care. All the best. And regarding the PPT will be uploaded in the portal. Please download, or let's say the drive, download after the session. Thank you.